Hi everyone. So I was gonna shoot this chosen vlog in my bedroom like I normally do, but it's such a beautiful day outside. I just had to be out here. So, before I go into this episode, Season 2, Episode 4, The Perfect Opportunity, and I now know why it's called that, just having watched this episode again. I want to go over what it says in the Bible, because it's in the Gospel of John. It's John chapter 5. And it's the healing at the pool. And it says this: Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie: the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. The one who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me get into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once, the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. And so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat." But he replied, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" So they asked him, "Who is this fellow who told you to pick it up and walk?" The man who was healed had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Later Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." The man went away and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had made him well. Okay, so I read this. I figured it would be in the Gospel of John, because when that happens in this episode, you see John writing it down. So I figured this is in the Gospel of John. So let's go into this episode. The episode, man, it is such a beautiful day out. My shirt is getting hot just from the sun, just sitting here, because it's late March, and it just, like, it feels like May. It's not hot, but it's not cold either. It's like perfect. It's not windy. It's a good day for walking on the boardwalk, actually. So anyway, it starts off with this boy who decides to climb up this tree, and he falls, and he's paralyzed. He can't walk. His legs don't work, and he's tried everything his whole life. Everything. Nothing works. And the first 10 minutes of this episode is just his backstory with no dialogue. It's like watching the first 10 minutes of the movie Up. You guys ever seen that movie? No dialogue, but it tells you the whole story through visuals. And that's what filmmaking is supposed to do. Show you, don't tell. So we watch this boy grow up, and he has a brother. And the brother is a lot younger than he is. And it turns out, as they grow up, the younger brother decides to leave his paralyzed brother to go and become a zealot. So already you know where this is going. If you've read the New Testament and you know the disciples, you know where this is going. I didn't at the time. But looking back on it now, it's interesting with, you know, how they weave all this in. So this boy, now an old man who hasn't walked most of his life, is now laying at this pool, and the common knowledge is that if you are paralyzed, you know, or blind or lame, or you have a disability, if you go into the pool first, when the water starts to stir, you will be healed. And this is what Jesse believes, who is this man who's been paralyzed his whole life. He believes this. But he has trouble getting from the steps to the water because he can't walk. He barely can crawl, actually. And he's so old, and he's been there for so many years, he's been wasting his life away, and he doesn't know what to do. Now his brother, we find out his brother's name is Simon. So right there, this is number 11. This is number 11. Okay, because we have 10 disciples right now. So this is number 11. And Simon has been training with the Zealots most of his entire life, and he has decided that he's going to be involved in an assassination attempt. He's going to help the Zealots take out one of Roman's, one of the leaders or something in this area of Rome. And it just happens to be where his brother is, in the same town, because they're having the Jewish festival coming up. I forget the name of it, but that's another common thing that the disciples are talking about. You know, they're talking about it. I'm trying to remember what else happens in this episode, because this relationship between the two brothers was so strong and powerful. I actually forget what else happened in this episode. Oh, wait a sec. No, I do. So, turns out that Shmuel shows up in the same place where Jesus and the disciples are, and Matthew recognizes him, and he tells Thomas and Nathaniel, he says, that member of the Sanhedrin, he was in Capernaum with us. He was trying to have Jesus arrested by the Romans. And Thomas and Nathaniel are like, well, you know, well then you leave, Matthew, because he doesn't know our faces. You know, we'll be fine. Because Shmuel is standing there and preaching to everybody right before the festival. He's saying, you know, many people will come and they will try to get you to, you know, to believe in the word of God, and that's fine. But some will come with an agenda, and they will lie to you, and, you know, all that. And because Shmuel doesn't believe, obviously. And so the scene that was so powerful. Like, it's funny. Honestly, this episode came off as if Jesus was talking to an addict. So anyone with an addiction can relate to this, and I can too, because I've been down that road. Not paralyzed, but Jesse is addicted to the pool. He feels that this water can heal him if he can just get into that water when it starts to stir. But he can't get there because he's always getting pushed over. And he has no one to take him. He has no family, nothing. Simon was his only family. And Simon abandoned him to join the Zealots. Now, before Jesus comes to meet with this man, Simon the Zealot and Jesse, the two brothers, they have this conversation where they talk. And they haven't seen each other in many, many, many years, since they were kids. And Simon is telling Jesse, you know, I've prayed all my life that you would be healed. And he tells Jesse, he says, the moment you start walking on your feet, I will know the Messiah is here. So that I kind of know where this is going. And Jesse's upset that Simon is going off to do this assassination attempt because, we're not supposed to kill. The Lord says do not kill. God says don't do that. And Simon's like, there is a time to kill, there's a time to do this, and a time to, and we have to, the oppressors must be dealt with, and, we can't take this anymore, and, and I'm doing this for you. And Jesse's like, what, for me? What do you mean? You're murdering someone. You're going to be arrested. You're going to be killed by Romans. And Simon doesn't care. He's going to go do his own thing. And Jesse's just sitting there waiting, basically to eventually die, because he doesn't know what else to do. And then the best scene in the whole thing happens. So Jesus shows up. He brings Simon, Andrew's brother Simon, and he brings John, and I think Matthew too. I know John is there because John's writing it down. And he says, well, I have to see someone first. So Jesus sees him laying there, and he's exactly what I read in John chapter 5. He says, excuse me, I have a question for you. And Jesse wakes up, he's lying down, he's like, for me? I don't have many answers, but okay, I'm listening. And Jesus looks at him and he says, do you want to be healed? And Jesse's just looking at him, he's like, who are you? Jesus looks at him, he's like, we'll get to that later. But answer my question, do you want to be healed? And instead of answering, he goes into this long list of excuses as to why he isn't. And he says, there's nobody to take me to the water. I get pushed every time I go into that. And then he also asks Jesus, he says, are you going to take me to the water? And he's frustrated and he's angry as he's listing off all this list of grievances and complaints. And Jesus looks at him and he says, look at me. That's not what I asked. I'm asking you if you want to be healed. And he says, I've been suffering. And he goes, you've been suffering for a long time. I know. And he says, look at me. This pool, it does nothing for you. And you know it. Yet you're still here. Why? And he looks at Jesus and he says, I don't know why. And Jesus looks at him and he says, so let me ask you again. Do you want to be healed? Then let's go. Pick up your mat and walk. And he starts to feel his legs work. And he stands up and he's able to walk. Just like that. Because he wanted to be healed. He had nowhere else to turn. Nowhere else. Because the thing that he was doing for years that he thought would heal him didn't. Because that thing was a lie. I can relate to that. In many ways. And if you can too, then that scripture's for you. The sun's actually moving and my face looks a little dark, but if you can relate to that, that's good. Because that's the great thing about reading the Bible. You never know what God is going to tell you. It's interesting. I was reading as I was reading this when we started this vlog, I kind of see myself in John chapter 5. And it's funny because I'm recording this on a Sabbath. It's, well, I don't know if it goes with I don't know what the Jewish tradition is, but it's Sunday. I'm recording this on a Sunday, so for Catholics, I guess it's the Sabbath, right? This is the day where we all go to church. This really did speak to me. I don't know if it's going to speak to you. But if you're struggling, and I've said this before, if you're struggling and you don't know where to turn to Jesus. He's the only one that can heal you. Nothing else can. Nothing else can. Only Christ can do that. He's always asking you if you want to be healed. And sometimes he might not heal you in the time that you want. But maybe there's a reason for that. Just like this episode. Because, there's a reason, there's more than one reason why he heals Jesse. After he heals him in the episode, he gets his mat and he leaves, and of course the Sanhedrin sees this and they get all angry about it. They said, "Oh, it's Shabbat. You're not supposed to be picking up your mat at that point." And John and Matthew are looking at him. He's like, "Do you not know what just happened here?" And the Sanhedrin, they asked Jesse. They said, "Who told you to get up and walk?" And Jesse's like, "He did over there. I didn't catch his name," because Jesus had already left. And he's like, I'm standing on 2 legs. He hasn't been able to use his legs since he was a child. He's like, "I'm sorry, I have to go find my brother. I have to go find him." And just as Simon is about to pull off the assassination attempt, he turns to his left and he sees his brother walking. And he doesn't go through with it. Simon doesn't commit the murder. He doesn't do it. He looks over, he finds his brother, and they reconcile, and oh man, it's such a great scene. And Simon's asking him, he said, "Who did this? Where is he?" And Jesse's pointing, "He went out that way." And Simon turns to go follow him. "Follow me." Jesus did that for more than one reason. He's pulling Jesse out of his demons. He's pulling the demons out of Jesse. He's pulling the demons out of Simon at the same time. That's why it's called the perfect opportunity. Because of what Jesus did by healing this man, because this man wanted to be healed, Simon forgets who he was in the process. He forgets who he was. And that's what all the disciples did in order to follow Christ. They forgot their former selves. They left that behind to follow him. Where this is going, they don't know, and neither do we. But that's what it means to be born again of the Spirit. As they explained in episode 7 in season 1, that conversation, I keep going back to that conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus. That's such a powerful scene. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole series. It's one of many. Season 4 through 7 don't exist yet at the time I'm recording this, but I got a feeling seasons 4 through 7 are going to have a lot of moments that are going to be up there with that scene, and especially the scene in this episode at the end. And then the word starts spreading. The Sanhedrin, they start talking to Shmuel, and Shmuel, this look on his face, he's like, "Wait a minute, I think I know who did it." And Simon Peter, I should say. Simon Peter and John and Matthew are turning to Jesus, and they said, "So that was incredible. What'd you do that for?" And Jesus goes, "Sometimes you gotta stir the water." In other words, yeah, Jesse, I can take you to the water, but not that water. Living water. That's Christ. And I notice at the end of the episode, when Jonathan Rumy's walking towards the camera, you can hear a version of Trouble being played.
I love that song. That's such a great... I hope they use that song many more times in the series. I love that song. I think I've only heard it maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times in the series so far. But yeah, I love that song. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, Dallas Jenkins, you done it again. Yeah, you and all the other actors doing this show. Yeah, I really liked this one a lot. This was a great episode. Man, it is such a beautiful day outside, right? It's so perfect to be out here. I might do more Chosen vlogs out here. You know, it's springtime now. It's no longer winter, so maybe I'll do more of them out here in the backyard. I do like this. So that's what I have to say about The Perfect Opportunity. And if you guys don't have the Chosen app on your phone yet to watch Season 2, you can keep watching it along with me. And also Season 3, when we get into Season 3, it's very simple. You know, if you don't have the Chosen app, I'll tell you how you do it. You go on your phone, you go to Applications, just type in the Chosen, and it's the picture of Matthew, Paris Patel. He's the one that wished me the happy birthday. Thank you again for that, Paris. So you just download it, and that's it. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost money to get this app. It doesn't. Dallas Jenkins has made that very, very clear multiple times, that this app is free. This show is free. There is no subscription. There's no money. You just download the app and you have every episode. You can watch them all for free. Every single one of them. Because I guarantee you, you're not going to be watching this show only one time. Okay? I have a feeling you're going to be watching this show multiple times. I have, and I will into the future, because I love this show. What they are doing is unbelievable. What we are doing is unbelievable, because it's not their show, it's our show. We're all, like, in order for them to make this show, everybody donates something. You know, you don't have to donate a whole lot of money for this, because that's the way they're able to keep this show for free. They fans of the show, or supporters of the show, I should say, not fans, because I know Paris Patel doesn't like to say fans, but supporters of the show like to, you know, like will donate money for future seasons, and Dallas Jenkins gives updates on how they're doing with financing it, because again, Hollywood's not financing this show. No one is. They don't have a studio financing this. I mean, Angel Studios, I think they distribute it, but they're not the ones putting up the money. No, the way they do it is they do it through the supporters of the show, which is the people that are watching, and the people are sending a message. We want to see this show. We want to see more of this show because we like it. And because of that, they're able to do not only four seasons, because they actually start filming season 4 tomorrow. I'm very excited. Actually, no, today, because this will air on Monday. I'm filming it on a Sunday, but this will air Monday. So that's today, actually, March 27th. They start filming season 4, which means we're going to start getting updates from Dallas, which is going to be interesting to see. If they start filming season 4 now, I would assume, I mean, they're going to do 8 episodes. It's usually 8 episodes a season, so in my opinion, I would say maybe around the fall is when we're going to get season 4. Maybe around Thanksgiving. I think it's going to be just like what they did with season 3. They're going to film it in the spring and summer, and then by the fall, winter, they're going to release it. So that's what it sounds like to me. But I could be wrong. But yeah, and you can donate to The Chosen. You know, you can always do that. I'm not saying that I don't represent The Chosen. I'm just a supporter of the show. But the reason I say this is because this show is so good and has brought me so close to this. Because every time I watch an episode, I always say, now where's that in the Bible? Did they really say it like that? You know, they might have mixed the words up a little bit. They might have added a few things to it, but it's still the same thing, you know, and it makes me want to read the Bible more, and I'm not alone in that. I know there's other people out there that have done the same thing, but I don't represent the show The Chosen. I'm just a supporter, and You don't have to donate. If you want to donate to The Chosen, you don't have to donate $100. You could donate $20 if you want to. Or you can donate $10 if you want to. It doesn't matter. Or don't donate at all. You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to donate anything. The fact that we're keeping this show alive, I mean, like I just love talking about it. That's why I'm doing these vlogs. Because I love this show. And I love movies. But I really want to know Jesus more from watching this show. And I wanted to know who Jesus was even more before I even started watching this show. It's just, what's so cool about it is that this is the first time I'm able to watch a show about Christ where I understand what he's saying. Like, after I opened up 3 years ago, I went back and I watched all those movies and miniseries about Jesus where I never really understood what Jesus was saying, but now I do. And I understand it even more in the show The Chosen because it's relatable. You know, they made all the disciples relatable. They don't all look the same, you know. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about Perfect Opportunity. And I hope you guys enjoy this. John chapter 5 for this episode. Very good. Really liked it. Really spoke to me. I hope it speaks to you. And I'll see you guys in next week, season 2, episode 5. See ya.